This is the Recycling, Scrap Metal, Commodities, and Economic Report, December 16, 2024. U.S. weekly raw steel production rose slightly to 1.67 million tons, down 2.2% from last year and down 2.3% year-to-date on slow U.S. manufacturing, partly due to strong U.S. imports of finished goods. WTI crude oil price rose to $71.29 a barrel on tightening global supplies, China's increased oil imports, and possible oil sanctions coming on Russia and Iran. Russia and Iran are major oil exporters. Sanctions would help U.S. oil company exports. U.S. weekly crude oil production rose to 13.63 million barrels per day, a new all-time record in American history. U.S. oil companies could be betting on sanctions as they are positioning to replace Russian and Iranian exports. The U.S. weekly oil rig count was steady at 482, on the record production we talked about. There is major room for growth in exports. Scrap steel number one HMS composite price fell to $303.33 a gross ton as some markets were sideways. This was on slow global manufacturing, which is keeping downward price pressure. Hot rolled coil steel price fell to $33.75 per hundredweight, which is $6.75 a ton, the price of 2010, 14 years ago. This was on slow U.S. manufacturing, partly caused by the continued imports of the finished goods we talked about into the U.S. Copper price fell to $4.20 a pound, but remained high. There was China manufacturing pessimism despite stimulus. Also, on possible fewer and slower interest rate cuts by the U.S. Federal Reserve. Aluminum price rose slightly to $1.19 a pound, which is $26.15 a metric ton, on lower aluminum production in China caused by a lack of electric power there. Also on China's end of tax rebates on aluminum exports that hurt global supply. China's November exports grew 6.7% versus last year, the highest value in 26 months. Exports increased 8% to the U.S. Plastic products and textiles grew the most. U.S. November annual inflation CPI consumer price index rose 2.7% versus last year. Energy continued to fall while shelter and transportation rose. Higher inflation means the Federal Reserve could slow interest rate cuts. U.S. weekly initial jobless claims soared higher to 242,000, which goes against the thoughts of a tightening labor market. But most still forecast an interest rate cut this week to undo the current slightly restrictive rates. U.S. Q3 labor productivity rose by 2.2%, the highest of the year. Productivity allows for salary increases without inflationary pressure. U.S. November NFIB Small Business Optimism Index jumped to 101.7, the highest in 3.5 years. Owners are hopeful of more tax cuts and expectations of an improving economy. Wall Street's Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 828 points to 43,828 with 7 days of losses. The very good economy allows companies to raise prices, which brings higher inflation. Then higher inflation means the Federal Reserve could slow the interest rate cuts we talked about, and that would slow growth. Roll-off trailers by Ben Lee. All are heavy duty and have high uptime, lowest owning and operating costs, as well as the longest frame warranty in the industry at 6 years. From the Super Mini in the tandem axle to the 8-axle extreme roll-off trailer, all Ben Lee trailers have the exact same axles, control valve, cable, rollers, and more. This report by Greg Brown is brought to you by Ben Lee Roll-Off Trailers, gondola trailers, crush car trailers, lugger trucks, dump truck parts, roll-off trailer parts, and of course, roll-off truck parts for Galbraith, Galfab, American, Dragon, G&H, and more. As always, feel free to call or email me with any questions, and we hope all have a safe and profitable week.